Joining us now to help us dig a bit deeper is Stephanie Lang, a local writer and 7th-generation Austinite. Well, welcome. And we also welcome a local documentary filmmaker, Funmi Ogunro, who also happens to be a former Austin PBS employee. So welcome back to you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
And we're so happy to have both of y'all with us. So, Stephanie, as a 7th-generation Austinite, that is very amazing, and I feel like rare these days. Your family's experiences span much of what was on that timeline we just saw. So why is it important to preserve and to share this history, to understand the city's segregated past and now the lasting impact of that?
Well, that's a wonderful question. And I will say the main reason is, how are you going to tell the full story of this city, right? The state, this country, if you don't tell the stories and amplify the voices that played such an integral part in the creation, right, of these communities, of these states, of these cities. So I see in my work that there is these big voids, right, in some of that history. So we see like the results, but we don't know why they happen, right? We don't know why, a lot of Black and brown communities were relegated to East Austin. We don't know why there aren't certain businesses owned by Black and brown communities in these areas anymore. We don't know the history of enslavement in our city. There's so many things that we don't know, or this information is limited. There's a history of the archives, the so-called traditional archives, right? Not amplifying, again, the voices of, non-white folks. And so a lot of the this work is about that, right? It's about telling the full story that we all need to learn and we all need to, all can benefit from.
And there's so many stories that need to be told, so many stories that have yet to be told. And one of those stories we're going to show y'all in a second. Speaking of archives, we did a deep dive into the Austin PBS archives for this segment to highlight a remarkable act of courage. A Black teenager who was in high school in 1960 and took a swim in Barton Springs, which was at the time for whites only. And we want to play that clip for y'all.
When we were 9th graders, the principal called us in and said that we could go to white school the following year. So 8 of us went. 1960, spring of 60, our senior year. The principal called me in and said, I consider you to be the leader of the Black kids in your class, so I want you to go and tell them none of you can go to the senior picnic because Barton Springs and Zilker Park are segregated. We did petitions, and many parents signed, and students themselves. I think they eventually said, well, you can go to the picnic, but they weren't going to change the policy forever. They were just saying, oh, let them go. It's just 8. Barton Springs is iconic. Barton Springs is Austin. Even though I had never been there, everybody talked about it all the time. We had to do the pool. They didn't really have it properly locked off. You just go around this way and you're in. You know how big Barton Springs is. How do you control all the people in there? So we started swimming. They really don't know at first. Then they'll notice, oh, there's some Black kids in there. They want to take us out. Then we go around, catch our breaths, and come back again. That summer was full of swim-ins. We did a lot of ins, and this was happening, it was spreading like wildfire across the country. Eventually, they changed the city ordinance. I found that almost everything that opened, we had to march, protest, petition, go to the council. These things just don't open by themselves.
Just one of myriad courageous acts taken to advance racial progress here. So can you explain what we just watched? What's the significance of this particular moment?
Significance is like what was happening in so many places around the country. It was the youth, right, that were making these steps and were showing that things needed to change. But a lot of this was very strategic. And I think having the youth leading a lot of these was strategic as well. But Barton Springs means so much to so many people. So, for that action in that place was very powerful, you know. And then if you learn the history of Barton Springs and know that that was connected to enslavement and there were people enslaved on that land, it makes that, you know, even deeper and more powerful.
Absolutely. And Funmi, as a filmmaker yourself, how do you see the civil rights era here in Austin fitting into the broader storyline of Black history in America?
Well, the work Stephanie and I have been doing is preserving the history of Black Austinites and Black history. Oftentimes, some of the struggles that we've experienced here in Austin are nationwide struggles as well. And you see these continuous patterns of resilience and struggling, but fighting back. And so what me and Stephanie are doing currently is we're documenting these stories in Austin. We're tracking down descendants. That story is such an important story for Austin's history, and that needs to be uplifted to show the community strength and what we can do when we work together, whether you're a youth, whether you're an adult.
And you guys, you recently made a video kind of on that topic in Manchac about a historic Black cemetery, Brown Cemetery. And in that video, which has now gone viral on TikTok, you spoke to an amazing 85-year-old woman named Miss Flo. So can you tell us about that video and tell us about Miss Flo's story?
Well, I want Stephanie to tell us about Miss Flo because Stephanie introduced me to Miss Flo, and she's a fireball.
She absolutely is. I met her and I just was blown away. Her commitment and pride and her family and her community and the way she holds on to that history and is so committed to the cemetery and also their family land that they have, a couple of blocks away. But Miss Flo is a force, and Miss Flo reminds me the importance of holding on to your history and your legacy. And the cemetery is just just a wealth of knowledge. It's an archive in itself.
Can I add to that?
Please do.
I just want to say, social media, TikTok, they love Miss Flo. Her videos have gone viral because it's authentic and it's a look in the past. She does a great job of describing what life was like when she was a little kid, and people just eat that up and they say, oh, this reminds me of my grandma.
And now we actually want to play that video of Miss Flo for y'all to see.
This is
Flores Sorrell,
AKA Miss Flo.
I was born May 10th, 1939. I am 85 years old.
This is her family cemetery, Brown Cemetery. She and her family own over 100 acres of land here in Manchaca, Texas, which has been in the family for over 100 years. She enjoys taking care of the land, including the cemetery.
This cemetery was bought by my daddy's daddy, which is my grandfather, back in the 1900s. It was recorded at the courthouse in 1900.
Miss Flo's family is buried here, but when her grandfather bought the property, it was already home to graves believed to belong to enslaved individuals and indigenous individuals.
At one time I can remember, it was a lot of airheads back there, and I remember picking up some of them and put them in some bucket, a jar or something.
Since 2004, Miss Flo has been dedicated to caring for the cemetery.
So like you just said, she is a powerhouse. She is a force. There is a reason why she's going viral. And it hits home. These stories are not that far off. You think of history as, ages ago, but this is all part of, the modern fabric that we live in now.
Absolutely.
And the documentary project, I'm sure people are going to be really interested in how they can watch. So can you tell us what's the status of your documentary? When do you hope to have it out?
Yes, so Stephanie and I have been working on our documentary. Previously, the name was Austin Black Freedom Communities, because, that kind of is a general name. But now we've decided to change the name to Rise. And so, yes, the document, surprise, surprise.
It's a great name.
I love it.
Rise Up. And we're actually in the editing stage right now. We're filming a bit more, but we have most of the footage. And so we're We're also going to share a sneak peek of the documentary at a film festival at Pease Park. The event is also called Rise. So March 29th at Pease Park, we'll show a snippet of the documentary.
Oh, look forward to that. And will we get to see more of Miss Flo in the documentary?
Yes, you will see more of Miss Flo, and she will be at the event on March 29th at Pease Park.
Excellent. Oh my gosh. We'd all, I know, after that clip would love to meet her and hear her wealth of stories. And we want to thank both of you. Stephanie, Funmi, thank you so much for joining us here on Austin Insight and sharing your insight into Austin's Black history.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe for more from Austin Insight.
You can also watch full episodes of Austin Insight for free on the PBS app.